Hello there, and welcome to the CP7 podcast. My name's Palm.
And I'm Andy.
And I'm Emily.
And together, we are Chrono Passion 7. Hello, and welcome back to your favourite watch-related podcast. We've got another guest, a very special guest. Someone who has just literally come out of nowhere. One day you're watching YouTube, she's not there, you're on Instagram, she appears, then she's on YouTube, and now she is at every watch meet, she's at every event. It is none other than Emily Marsden from Secret Diary of a Watch Girl. How are you doing, Emily?
I'm really well. I mean, what an introduction. I mean, I've actually heard that the current rumour is that I'm a spy, a Richmond spy. I just came from nowhere, and now I'm everywhere. But it's an honour and a privilege.
It's true.
I'm not a spy. I wish I was a spy. It sounds quite exciting. Sadly, that part is not true.
But you could be an industry mole.
I could be. Do you know what? Maybe we'll leave that one open.
Yeah, you wouldn't tell us if you were anyway. So anyway,
we better be on our best behaviour.
Exactly.
Say Richmond brands are great.
Yeah, exactly.
For all the best. So warm welcome, Emily, also from my side. And to kick the show off, as always, we have to ask that burning question. What's on your wrist today?
I'm becoming sadly quite predictable with what's on my wrist. It won't shock anyone, I don't think. No, it's an IWC. And it is, my favourite watch. It's the 3755 Da Vinci Perpetual Calendar, 1986. Kurt Klaus's crown-operated perpetual aventurine dial. Pretty special thing, at least for me, not necessarily because of the watch, actually, more the sort of story around it. And if anything, actually, I think it's probably the reason I'm even sat talking to you guys today, that things really changed, actually, after that watch. So that's what's on my wrist. What about you, Pog? What about you?
Well, I'm wearing a watch I've not worn for a long time. It's my Rolex GMT Master 2 BLNR, also known as the Batman. Andy pointed out the other day, he goes, I've never seen you wear that anymore. Why don't you just sell it? And I was like, well, no, I can't sell a watch. But yeah, so I thought I'd wear it today for this very special show, especially with our industry insider as well. You know, I don't want to get cancelled for not wearing a nice watch. But yeah, so that's what I've got on my wrist. Andy, what are you wearing?
I'm sticking with a similar theme. It's a Tudor 76-100 Tudor Submariner, the lollipop dial. And yeah, I've had it a little, not so long, maybe 3 weeks probably, as of recording this show. But loving it, yeah. It feels good to have a Submariner back in my life. So yeah, not much to say, just classic black dial, black bezel, but yeah, has the mojo in all the right places.
You're in the honeymoon phase.
Yeah, that's what I'm rocking. Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Yeah, it won't last long. But actually, mind you, it's been about 3 weeks, isn't it?
Is that a record?
Yeah, it's a record.
That is a record, actually.
They've
yeah.
come and gone faster than that before.
All right. Okay, so Emily, going back to yourself and what I alluded to earlier on and how you suddenly sprung onto the scene. But before all that, tell us about your watch journey and how you got into watches and just a bit about yourself, just to, let everyone know who you are and what you do.
This is the part where I have to delicately tread the line between giving you all the boring realities of my life and keeping up the illusion of the sort of life that people think I lead by virtue of my Instagram feed. So how did I get into watches? I was about 13, 14, the early days of Hodinkee. Nobody in my family collects. I didn't own a watch or anything like that. And then I used to go to Watch of Switzerland in my school uniform, get the bus. I grew up in Manchester after school. And this was back in the day. I have nothing but amazing things to say. I actually recently found the email chain from the lady at Watch of Switzerland. They would entertain me. I've got catalogues still at home of the different exhibitions that Patek Philippe did down in London, of old IWC catalogues, which I've got quite a few of. And she just sort of took me under her wing and really introduced me to the world. So I think that was quite formative. I don't really think at that point it was about the watch. It was about the experience. And then time went on. I remember the first John Mayer interview, and that really, really shaped me, to be quite honest. I remember he had the 5002 Big Pilot, and he said something like, it's just me and my watch sometimes, and I put it on the nightstand, and that's it. That's all that there is in this hotel, and I'm lonely and I'm bored.
The IWC connection began there, did it?
Honestly, that was it. So that was exactly it. And I said to myself, like, one day I'll have an IWC, but I'll have specifically the 5002. Way too young at this point. I did go on to own one, but probably 10 years later. Time went on. I was a break student for a few years up in Scotland, and then I moved down to London, got my first job, got my first bonus, and did what everyone does and spent it all. But actually, I bought two things. I spent a little bit more of my bonus first. It probably wasn't very sensible of me. I bought a Reverso Classic, which I still have now, and that was my first proper watch. And I bought a birth year bottle of Lagavulin at auction, because I'm a big whiskey fan as well. And I still have that. I've not actually drank it, which I'm very proud of. It's still there gathering dust. I occasionally dust it down. That was the first sort of foray. And then, honestly, nothing really changed. I just, continued to read all the watch books you can imagine. I'm a historian by background, and I enjoy that. That's what excites me. And I started to get more into movements and the why, the sort of maybe quite philosophical why. And then joined the Westfield Company of Clockmakers over in London. Met loads of people that were infinitely more wise and nerdy than me, and just continued to sort of fall in love. And then really that journey carried on until I was at Watches and Wonders after begging poor IWC. I'm not even joking, begging to go. I bought a few pieces. So I bought the 5002 a couple of years before. That was my first IWC. And then luckily IWC let me go to Watches and Wonders last year. And then I happened to, not, by the way, at this point, my Instagram has like 3 followers. I made it randomly because I was bored. And there was no sort of ambition for it.
Yeah, me and Andy and one other.
Yeah. Well, like my nan, probably. And I met Justin Hast, and I was wearing a titanium ingenieur. And he was like, oh my God, I've never seen that, like her in the wild. And a woman, you can sort of like imagine him in his excitement. And he's like, we have to film. So I've just gone from what the F is going on. I've just met Chris Granger, her. Now Justin Hast, who I've followed for years, is coming over to me saying we should film. I'm like, honestly, I was just looking around me like, what the heck is happening? About a month or two later, the video came out, and that was it. That's, that the journey started probably 6-7 months ago. And people think it's sort of come out of nowhere, but the stuff in my brain has been, that was 14, 15 years of that. And then randomly an opportunity came along, and then here we are. And then about 2 months later, the film came out. And then, the past 6.5 months have just been packed with, well, all the stuff that you sort of mentioned at the start. Stuff that even now, I honestly, when I get a call or an email of someone saying, will you join my podcast? Will you come on this trip? I feel like laughing, because I'm like, are you kidding? This is honestly, like the dream, right? It's the total thing.
Yeah, we're still waiting for our calls for people to invite us. No, I think we're doing okay as well. I saw your Instagram, and then it was you were in Amsterdam and you were buying that watch. Is that
That's
right?
Absolutely correct. Yeah.
Was it Amsterdam?
It was.
And then that was it from there.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think that's a good point. So the video came out, the 2 watch collection came out, and then the feedback was quite similar to what you said at the start, which was like, who is this person? Like, where has she come from? From complete obscurity. My Instagram account didn't have any photos of me on it. Not that it mattered, because it was you two and my nan anyway. And then basically at the end of that video, Justin said, what's the grail? Like the worst question you could ask, like, what's the grail? And I'd been in a real rabbit hole at that point, around the Da Vinci perpetual calendars, but specifically the ceramics. I'd heard the rumours of what they've got stored away in Schaffhausen, which I've heard is there are a few different colours, which I'm still desperately knocking on the door to get a view at. And I'd gone down the rabbit hole of the white, so there were 20 of them made, apparently. IWC won't confirm, nor deny. If I was a Richemont spy, I would know that, but I don't. And so 20 were made, 1986, probably a few years of production. And then they're full ceramic, right? So probably you can assume half are broken or lost of some sort. And then I know of about 4, possibly 5 that have been sold in the years between. And this is one of them. And the other one was in November in Geneva. So anyway, somebody emailed Justin, called Jimmy. He said, look, I know there is one. It's in Amsterdam. It's in great condition. So Justin and I got on it. We had David over at IWC check it out and sort of verify it. And that was it. I called the guy over in Amsterdam. We made a deal. And Justin and I booked the first Eurostar, and we spent 6 hours traversing Europe on the way there. It was 6 a.m. when we got on the train, and everyone was asleep. Justin and I spoke the whole way there, And not at any point did we speak about anything other than watches. Not even to say, like, we probably said, "Are you hungry? Should we get a snack?" But it's probably like the only break. To the point of where I think we actually annoyed people. Because between the two of us, we don't shut up. But yeah, that was that again. Now it's sort of become, if I turn up at a watch event, no one cares that I'm there. They're like, "Oh my god, the 3755! Can I see it?"
It's like the watch.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm super proud of it. Actually, real milestone.
Oh, that's awesome. You say it's 1986 as well, right?
Yes, exactly.
That's my birth year, so I need to get one of those. A good enough excuse.
It's so funny that the sort of tales we tell ourselves as collectors as to why we need things. The birth year is a great one.
It's a great excuse, yeah.
Yeah, I need a birthday watch. Why?
Yeah, exactly. Why?
Yeah, nobody
Just do.
really needs one.
It's been on this planet as long as I have. There's loads of things been on this planet as long as you have. We have many excuses to buy many things, and but watches are awesome, right? That's why we do it.
100%. I mean, I guess it's anything in life, right? It's all the story. It's the story you tell yourself. It's the story. Your life is is really just what you tell yourself it is. And I don't mean to sort of sound. It's not spiritual at all. It's like it's almost like the most absolute thing in the world. If you wake up in the morning and decide today I will be happy, there's a good chance you'll be happy that day, or at least happier than you would be if you chose otherwise. And I think that's the same with watches. It's people who don't have that tick, the urge, the collecting thing, whatever you collect, probably don't get it and think we're all weird. But there is nothing quite like the obsession and the sort of community and the chase that comes with having something that you attach so much value to. I almost look around me and I wonder what people do who don't have passionate interests and hobbies and obsessions, because I think this elevates my life to a degree that I couldn't possibly explain to someone. You know the feeling you have when you find something or speak to someone?
I think they just have Netflix.
They just watch Coronation Street.
I'm guilty of that too.
Yeah, just watch EastEnders or something.
Yeah,
that's their passion. Yeah. No, I think, but since I've been in this whole watch thing, it's just a whole community of people who don't miss an event. They go to everything. They want to know about everything, and they genuinely enjoy meeting each other and genuinely enjoy the conversations as well, which I think you don't get in other things like sports. If you support a certain sports team or something, it's not quite the same. You'll get a pocket of your friends that you'll talk to, but you won't have everyone who will probably be on that same level. And I think that's quite a unique thing. Yeah, it's really cool.
For sure. But even so, like, my friends sort of mock me now that my phone, when it buzzes, I don't have notifications on my Instagram just because I'll get too distracted by it. But everything else comes through. And I'm in so many watch groups now. So many people that I text daily. A good friend of mine, Matt, we met at Schaffhausen last year. We see each other all the time now. Yeah, I will get every couple of days a phone call. I've seen this watch. I've got to send it to you. Like, I think we've got to do it. Or, there's always someone talking about some watch somewhere, or just people having a bit of a moan about something or celebrating something. It's actually quite it's almost like a whole extra life that you get. The people that I've met, you would think, the sort of, it's quite surface level. But I think because you have quite a strong thing in which you connect over, you might have different tastes or completely different opinions, but you'll probably have a similar personality in some sense. And you care quite deeply. If you care about watches, you care deeply about a certain, it's kind of hard to put my finger on what that thing is, but I've collected people that's a horrible phrase, I think, collecting people, but
you've collected people?
Meaningful relationships.
Where are
bloody
they?
Awful.
They're dead or something. Are they in your cupboard?
Yeah, that's the real secret. You've uncovered it.
Okay, anyway, thanks for joining us, Emily.
Cut.
See ya.
I don't know where to go from there. I'm fearing for my life now, yeah. Right, okay.
It is special, though, the community, right?
Yeah.
It is like no, but it is like another life, right? You meet so many new people. And it's interesting that you touched on that, Emily, like, prior to getting into watches, I don't know what I did. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's a whole new layer, and you go on all these adventures, right? Like, Watches and Wonders is around the corner, and that's another a second year adventure for us now. Probably I'd like to get into the journey of the IWC Da Vinci a little bit more. But before we get into that IWC segment, I'm just curious, like we've discovered where you came from, or at least that you're trying to tell us where you came from. We don't know yet if you're a spy or not,
Or a
but
mass murderer.
we'll find out. Oh, mass murderer, we're a bit conflicted now.
God.
But where
rumor mill is
where do you want to
churning.
take? We need to be careful with this now, with the context. But where do you want to take the journey next within the industry? So, is it the social media side, or do you want to get more into like working more closely with brands? Like, what's your next steps? Where would you like to take? Because you've got the golden opportunity now with the stage you've been given, right? Where would you like to take it next?
It's a wonderful question in that I never started out with anything in mind. It was called Secret Diary of a Watch Girl because I thought it was funny, because I was too young to watch Secret Diary of a Call Girl. So I had this sort of like thing in my head that was growing up. But when I finally got to watch it, I thought it was really cool. So that's literally it was so whimsical. And then I used to work away a lot. And so I like researching. That's the thing I like. It's where the 3755 comes in. I enjoy I can't find this information, I will find it myself. And I had no platform back then, and nor did I care about that. But I used to post, I've archived quite a lot of them now because they're so nerdy. Maybe I'll revive them one day. I'd post my research with my pictures as a way for me to catalogue what I was doing. And like, genuinely, it probably was 30 followers at most. It was crazy. So that was what it started out as, a way for me to catalogue my musings, to sort of, just do something with it that wasn't in my notes app. It just felt more real. And then with the traction that's come along, I could never have guessed it. It certainly wasn't by design. If it was by design, I probably would have tried to be a bit more, I don't know, cool or, relevant in some sense, rather than like, here is where the screw slightly changed in 1942. Not quite as sexy. It was most successful social media accounts, which does lead me to the point that social media that's not what excites me. I think it's really cool and a lovely way to connect, but I don't wake up every day like, I can't wait to make a reel and, I don't know, get 4 more followers. I don't really care for that. But what it has highlighted for me, and you're absolutely correct, it's an opportunity, is that I've built, I hope, some sense of credibility on the back of whatever I talk about. It is my opinion. Nobody's paid me. Nobody has said I have to do it. And it is something I think is cool. It's something I probably would buy. It's something or at least would wear. And if it doesn't meet those criteria, I just won't talk about it. There's no good reason for me to. So I recently took a trip with Emez, which was incredible, by the way, and a total pinch me moment. But there's no payment there. That is a completely free, free of charge. Like, there's no offer of money, as has been everything else, to be really honest. Of course, they pay for your flight and they take you out for a really nice lunch. But again, they don't say, hey, you have to post about us. They just want to invite you over. And I asked them the direct question, like, why? Why do you want some kid from the north of England that just posts every now and again to come and hang out with you? And the answer was really lovely. And it really feeds into this concept of an opportunity, which was, you talk about what you like and you sort of do it in your own way. And that's what we like. We're not asking you to do anything different or anything at all. It was actually on the back of a video I did with Justin, totally ad hoc. We just had a bit of filming time left on the HO8. I'd never handled one before. And, we just spoke about it. Emez saw it and invited us out, which was incredible. So that's the sort of stuff that I realize I also have a thing to F up in a lot of ways, that if I now start saying I'll take some money to talk about something, then it's quite clear it's not me. I have nothing left. And, the reason I've amassed a small amount of followers, which I think are quite concentrated, because I go to events and you meet people, which is incredible. And they know you and they know your posts and they know your opinions. The second I start doing things that people can see through and they're like, hang on a minute, Emily, this doesn't make sense. Then what is there? Ultimately, people aren't interested. So that's the opportunity for me, is to keep almost doing what I'm doing and keep the independence. And if there's ever a day like the MS trip in the video that we have coming out, Justin and I, we're open and honest about it. We're not. It's not a paid thing. So the opportunity for me is to keep going down that road and researching and enjoying it. Cataloging stuff, finding the cool things, sharing with people, and giving my honest opinion. I'm not afraid of saying I don't like something if I'm asked, but I'm not a negative person. So I probably wouldn't start posting pictures of like, hey, look at this awful thing. That really is not me. If you met me in person, I'm mostly just like a puppy and like running around all the time. It's like Disneyland, Watch World for me. I spent some time with Roger Smith. We're both from Bolton, which is pretty cool, on my birthday last year, and then again at the start of this year. And I literally, I swear to you, this is, the weirdest thing I've ever done, probably. We were having a pint of Guinness, and I showed him my spreadsheet of his watches. I was like, hey, here's the analysis I've done on like how, the batons differ and the shade of blue differs. And he was like, he looked at me and he was like, oh my gosh, like you are an actual nerd. And that's sort of like a story now that even he would
you're in this deep.
You need some friends is probably what he was thinking. Now, Jake, you could go have another beer.
Netflix.
But that's what I love. That's the excitement for me. So I've no interest in the glitz and glamour. It's just for the sake of it. But it is very glitzy and it is very glamorous and it's incredible. But I am so aware that I have a lot to lose and I would never compromise on that. It's just not worth it to me.
That's a really good answer. So you just want to keep going on the journey you're going on. Would you get into maybe down the line, like with a level of detail, what you're describing there? Would you ever like to write a book maybe around any brands?
That is, I think you're the spy, actually. You've been reading my notebook, reading my manifestation book. No, I'm joking.
IWC.
IWC, of course, yeah.
Think
The story of the Da Vinci.
That'd be a beautiful thing.
Kirk Klaus's autobiography.
That would be a beautiful thing. That would be a beautiful thing. Look, I love writing. I enjoy the videos as well. I think they're just really good fun. Yes, the short answer is yes. I'd love to, and I've just for myself written a few concepts, and it really is born from what is not out there. What information do I want that I can't find? And then what I've sort of done is for a few different ideas that I've got percolating, I've sketched out the concept. Maybe I've written some stuff, got in touch with some people, and then I just sent some stuff over to different brands or watchmakers, and we'll see what happens. But of course, yeah, I mean, isn't that? It's almost like I'm too early in my journey to do that now, but what I think could be quite cool, and I really do believe in, is just sort of, try. I don't think for a second I'm remotely qualified to write a book on anyone. But what I lack in qualification, if that's even a thing in the watch world, is a certain sense of enthusiasm, which I think that's almost the thing I trade on. Is I'm probably the most enthusiastic 20-something watch person, maybe not in the world, but certainly in London.
No, it says a lot. So it's passion, right? And that's what we're all about as well on the podcast. So yeah, that's what drives us. And I think that's what's seen in the industry as well. So you say like certain qualifications, but if you have that, you wear your heart on the sleeve and you're genuine and you're not selling yourself out like you've said there, then I think that's really what shines through. So yeah, that's brilliant. A brilliant answer. Just keep doing what you're doing. It sounds like you're on the right path.
Nice to
hear. Speaking of paths.
Yeah. I just wanted to add to that. Sorry, just
yeah, no,
the videos it doesn't come across in the videos your real passion. I have met you in person, and from that I thought instantly you'd have been a great guest to come on the show. And the depth of knowledge, it really shone through, I guess, and on the videos you can't really tell that much. I mean, you're always doing something, and it's like I say, it's becoming quite the social media phenomenon. But that's really maybe a platform to really highlight that more, possibly, because like from what we're talking about today as well, the spreadsheets and the things like that not everyone would do that. Yeah, exactly. It's really refreshing to see that and hear that. It's just because a lot of people, they're in it just to go off and do this and that, and there are people with passion, but you don't really see them getting pushed forward too much. And it's nice to see that someone with a real genuine passion who's new on the scene is doing that and is making the inroads you're making. No, it's really good to see.
That's awesome. And actually, it's a cool thing to hear, because the spreadsheets and the level of nerdery it goes to. It's a funny thing, sort of. I don't think too much about what I post, and that's another thing I don't want to change. I don't want it to own me. I post because it's fun and I'm super passionate about it. And as soon as there's no passion, there's just no point. Life is such a wonderful thing, and there's so much to do with your life. This still fills me with so much joy, and those spreadsheets fill me with joy. And the idea of sharing them with people like yourselves who are passionate, and the idea that people would care is actually really cool. So that you've given me some food for thought of what to do with my spreadsheet now.
Are we getting an email after this with all your spreadsheets?
Yeah.
you just be like, block, delete, weirdo.
No, I didn't say we wouldn't be, but no, we won't. We wouldn't think that at all.
No. I think that maybe leads nicely back to IWC, and I think it's a mutual question, I'd say, from myself and Pam. But what started the passion so specifically with IWC, and then how did that lead to the love of the Da Vinci, which you now have as your prize piece? So how did that journey all tie together?
I've got a question for you before I answer that. And
okay.
So I think for the sake of the audience, this wasn't a sort of I never said, hey, I want to talk about IWC, which means that you guys have come up with this thought. In my mind, I don't feel like the biggest IWC person, but everyone I meet sort of mentions IWC to me straight away. I've had people ask me if I'm paid by them. I've had all kinds of questions, which I'm not, by the way. And all my watches are mine, and so on and so forth. So what is it that gives that strong sort of sense of why IWC? Why am I so attached to that, just from your perspective?
From my perspective, already, probably from the start of the show as well, like talking about the journey with the John Mayer piece. The big pilot. Yeah, and then literally the journey, what you took just to get the specific piece, what you have now. And then from the video with Justin Hast as well, where you had the IWC chest with two pieces there as well. Maybe gave me a slight inkling that you like IWC, but I could be wrong. That's certainly what did it for me.
That's really bloody fair, isn't it? Like, you've just sort of described like this chest of IWCs, and I'm like, wait, hang on a minute. Why do you associate me with that?
just that little chest.
Yeah, just the chest.
Yeah.
This is fair, and I've probably always got one strapped to the wrist. So why IWC? What started it? It would definitely be the John Mayer. Like, that's, I don't want to call it the John Mayer. I think that would be the golden green Daytona, wouldn't it? But it's the 5002. It was just infinitely cool to me at the time. It is still an icon. It's still a really important part of IWC's history. It's aviation history. It's got the pocket, based on the pocket watch movement. It's unapologetically large. It's 46.2 mil. I mean, that's just ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, there's no, I'm not The Rock. It looks like a frying pan on me. Like, I'll be honest, I'm okay with that. But what it did have, and I think what John Mayer did excellently, is tell a story. And he told the story of why, and I think he references back in the early 2000s when, I was very young, primary school years, people sat on the sort of late night comedy sofa and everyone had an IWC or a big pilot. And then I just, throughout my life, I've noticed that all shows that I watch from that era, someone has a big pilot. And I just never knew about that. It wasn't my time, right? It wasn't my era. So the big pilot in Gossip Girl, which very much was my era, it appears there. And now, even so, you sort of look around, and I think it's still got something about it, which is quite cool. So I got one of those. How old would I have been? I can't remember. I don't know how old I've been, but it was probably 10 to 15 years later that I finally got one. And it was a full box and papers, transitional 5002 with the big aviator strap, the thick leather strap with the rivets. I wore that thing sort of to death, to a point now where I actually don't wear it very much. Which, side note, probably, will it stay in the collection? I think I'm reaching a point where I'm ready to let it go, but it makes me quite sad. And it's purely financial. Okay. It's purely financial. It's, can I afford to keep something that I don't wear anymore? But I deeply love it and I'm deeply attached to it. I actually recently just picked up another IWC, a tribute to. I know. It was a tribute.
That's why you're selling it. Really, you've got a condition.
I've got a maxed out Amex.
That's the real
I didn't
reason.
think you could max out an Amex. Just keep going.
Exactly.
Well, you've met the one person who can.
But I am not, it's a moment where I've sort of gone, hang on a minute, I'm growing up a little bit now as well. I'm taking on some other adult obligations and trying to be a bit more sensible. And maybe you just think about the collection a little bit more, but that's a segue. I won't go down it too much now, but I'm trying to look at my collection holistically and figure out why behind all the pieces and not get too sentimental, because it's kind of like hoarding in a lot of ways. You just keep stuff because, that tissue, your nan touched it once or something. I keep referencing my nan. She's a wonderful woman. That's probably why. But anyway, so that was the 5002. And that was my first IWC. And to be really honest, and I've told IWC this, I had zero interest in buying an IWC from the modern catalogues, really. I didn't really get it. And then I went to, do you remember the big Pilot Roadshow? The big containers that travelled
in London, in Covent Garden.
Exactly. Yes.
Yes, I went to that. Yeah, a couple of
years
ago.
Really cool.
Really cool.
Early 22, maybe 21. But anyway, regardless,
just after COVID. Yeah,
was that what it was?
I think you can match the straps with the watches. You pull this thing around, and you can match this watch with the different straps and stuff. Yeah, really cool event. Really cool pop-up.
Really cool. And the containers were cool, and what I loved was they had all the materials. The different types of material on.
Yeah.
And I had every watch, which was also really cool. But also in the period where you couldn't get things. I mean, a brand like IWC, you typically can get most watches. But at this point, there were some you couldn't get. Like anything Mojave, you just couldn't get unless you were a prior customer. But anyway, I went to this roadshow, just thought, cool. Again, I had no platform. It was just a cool thing to do in London. I went along and I met Ludovic, who is my relationship manager now. Poor guy, he's probably sick of me WhatsApping him. But anyway, I sort of, entered into this conversation. I'd only bought my Reverso at this point, which tells you how badly things have sort of declined in those few years. And I was like, look, this is amazing. I love the Mojave. I'd really like this in a 40-ish mil chronograph one day, but you don't do that. And he looked at me and went, okay. So then I said, look, I'll come and visit you in the boutique. And I did. A couple of weeks later, we had a chat. I think a monopusher, a big Pilot monopusher came out. Beautiful watch, but at the time, way out of my budget. And so it just wasn't my first IWC. And then nothing happened. I said, look, I have to be bought into the brand. I don't just buy things on a whim. Do you have a book that I could purchase? The massive books that brands do. He said, look, I'm sorry, we don't. I said, what about that one on the side there? And he said, it's not for sale.
Ooh.
I said, look, I've tried to find one online, but they're £700. They've been out of print for 10 years. If you could figure out a way for me to buy that, then what I'll do is I'll take a week, I'll read it, all 1,000 pages of it, and I'll figure out why, if for any reason I love the brand. Because I asked Ludovic, what's the quintessential IWC? And it had a great answer. Anyway, a few weeks go by. They're amazing. I went to their Christmas party, which was really good fun. Lots of whiskey and biscuits. Met some really eclectic characters, which again I'm sort of still friends with now. I still haven't bought anything at this point, not a thing. Anyway, Ludovic somehow magically a few weeks later gives me the one from the store and says, "Hey, look, sorry, it's a bit tatty, it's a bit broken, but this is for you. Have a nice Christmas," which I thought was amazing, really lovely touch. So I did exactly that. I went away. I read all of it and really tried to distill down, okay, cool, do I get the brand? And I sort of marched back in a few weeks later and said, look, guys, number one, this story and everything you have does not shine through in any other place apart from your boutique. If I go to Watch of Switzerland or any Goldsmith, whatever, you just have a few watches in a window. There's no story. There's no sort of the quintessential IWC. You could call it, because I also don't think the answer is, hey, the Pilot's watch. That's not quintessential IWC. It's part of the story. What I think is quintessential IWC from the book and from my recent, learnings is materials, is material science and just general pushing the boundaries, and maybe not even pushing in the boundaries in a way that appeals to people, but sort of moving in its own way. That is what the big Pilot is. They made a bloody massive watch and didn't apologize for it. You know, you remember the old ads, you know, the Da Vinci said it's still less complicated than a woman, and you know, not all that sort of stuff.
Really, I don't know that one. But okay, I didn't know they did stuff
Justin
like
has gifted me the poster, and it's got a
Okay.
picture of the Da Vinci, and it says, yeah, still less complicated than a woman, which is brilliant. It's going up in the office. Anyway, so what that meant for me after reading the book was material science. So first brand to ever make a ceramic watch, one of the first brands to use titanium, ceratanium, so you get all the benefits of ceramic, but as light as titanium. Just really, really cool stuff. And then even quite recently, whether it's your taste or not, the Toto Wolf that came out can withstand 30,000 Gs. You know, somebody said to me, yeah, but that's ridiculous. Like, who cares? I'm never going to move at 30,000 Gs. Like, when do you need a tourbillon, my friend? You know, when do you need a minute repeater?
Yeah.
Well, so let's just move on from that. Like, I see your point.
I just want to cut in there, and you asked the question, why IWC? Why does everyone associate me with IWC?
Yeah.
And just for the listeners, if you could just see the body language that Emily's got, just the joie de vivre, the life, she just sprung to life, talking like about something she loves with a deep passion. And again, when I met you, we had a brief conversation about the Da Vinci and IWC, and it was very similar. And I think that resonates, and people see that coming out a lot. And that would be the reason why everyone associates you with IWC, because that is just pure passion. That is a real affinity for something, not hype, not anything, not trying to belong to something. It is just pure, genuine appreciation and a real connection with something. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, don't be sorry. I mean, that's awesome to hear, and it's sort of funny actually, because you're right. Like, I do find myself get really animated by IWC, probably for the reasons you've just described as to why I'm connected to the brand sort of externally. Is I hate to sort of, I don't know, fluff things up. There are many things they don't do right, because they're a bunch of humans, essentially. Humans are not perfect. But what they do is, in my opinion, this is just my perspective, is they move in their own way. They do their own thing. And I think over the past few years, we've seen them consolidate quite well and sort of double down on the right things. For example, what have IWC got? I think they've got Kurt Klaus. You know, it's sort of the way people, you know, you could argue they've got a Gentry, you know, in the Ingenieur, but we'll skip over that. We've got Kurt Klaus with the first crown-operated perpetual calendar, which actually I'd like to point out today, AP released their novelties, the 150th year, 150th anniversary. Everyone's banging on. Oh my God, they've got a Royal Oak where the perpetual is crown operated. Which,
Okay.
You know, this is cool. It's amazing. But I love to sort of go back to the Kurt, you know, in the middle of the quartz crisis, going, right, what can we do? I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll just double down on watchmaking. Brilliant. It's totally brilliant stuff. And coming back to the material science. So anyway, so that was that. I said, hey, here's what I like. If you look at my IWC collection now, it's very much focused on materials within what I can afford. And it's very much focused on the back catalogue almost of what I consider the icons. So I love the Mojave. I think it's really cool. And when Ludovic was like, okay, Emily, actually about a year later was when they released it, the 41mm, which I also have, the chronograph.
Of course.
Which is really cool. I just think it's infinitely cool watch. I love the idea that you are, and I get it, it's not for everyone, but the idea that you are licensed by Top Gun, as in, which is a very real fighter pilot school.
Yeah.
And they actually do get their own versions of these watches.
Yeah. It's not just a film, it's an actual real thing for the top pilot
division
in the US Air Force. I'll tell you what, we've got a very good friend, Martin Green, who's the unofficial third member of the team, and he is a massive IWC fan. I'd love to be a fly on the wall with you two talking IWC, because he's so bought into the brand
like 5
as well.
hours.
Yeah, it would be just it'd be like a.
What excites him? What gets him going about IWC? If you can speak for Martin.
No, I wouldn't want to speak for Martin, because Martin is so deeply rooted. He is a top journalist as well, so he knows his onions a lot better than I do. So I wouldn't want to speak on his behalf about what he. Especially about a brand I'm not that familiar with as well. But again, one day we'll make it happen at Watches and Wonders or something.
I'm looking forward to it.
IWC, go.
There you go. Just leave us in a corner.
Yeah, exactly.
Just set the mics on the table.
Come back the next day.
We go for a few glasses of champagne.
You might have been 38mm now.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I was just going to touch on really quick was I never really thought of IWC. Like, one thing I love, so we've got something in connection there around the Da Vinci is the module, right? The Kurt Klaus module. I think that's incredible. I don't think it's spoken about enough. And I think a perfect example, like with AP just today, right? It's like kind of the iPhone coming out with a calculator was there ages ago, right? On other devices and things like this. So it's kind of when one certain brand does it, it's a big deal. But when other brands, they don't get the recognition they deserve. So I'm totally with you there. But one aspect of IWC, which personally I've never really looked at them in such a way, is the innovation with materials. Like, if you were to ask me, which brands do you think pioneer with engineering and working with strange kind of different materials, I'd say like Hublot, which is maybe a curse word to some people, which I don't quite agree with, but we won't go down that road. But equally, you're right. Like IWC do so much with ceramic. There was the big buzz with Lewis Hamilton, right? With the one, I forget that new material they made, but it's like ceramic fused with Luminova, right? Ceralume, yeah. And that's crazy, right?
Very cool.
So they are really pushing the boundaries.
Yeah.
And I know they had to make like new ball bearings to get the compounds, right, to blend together.
Exactly.
I'm pulling from my brain from a while ago, but I did do an article on that one. But it's amazing, right?
It's super.
You don't think about it, but then you've just made me think like, well, they do really push the boundaries in that aspect.
Truly.
Yeah.
And that's, for me, I still not worked out whether I love that they don't shout and scream about it, or whether I am like, come on, do more.
Yeah.
But they are quite humble in their ways, and I don't, their approach isn't. And by the way, I wasn't bashing on AP before. I don't know enough to
but
bash.
it's a valid point.
It's simply a comparison.
Yeah.
I love Rolex, and they've only released a titanium watch now, and everyone was going mad about
But
it.
definitely not pioneers of materials.
It's not bashing on the brand. It's just stating the obvious.
Yeah, and it's a funny thing in the watch world, because there's nothing really truly new very often. It's sort of a reinterpretation, or you can argue everyone's copying everyone in some way, but I think that misses the artistic point, which is, coming back to what you're saying, Andy, IWC really have done interesting things. And if you are somebody who cares about or is moved by engineering in some sense, I'm not a material scientist. I have zero academic background in science, but I do think it's really cool to just try stuff and see what it's like. Trying to machine grade 5 titanium is notoriously difficult, but it looks really cool. And guess where else you find grade 5 titanium? On jet planes. Isn't that just cool? Of course, you can argue you find all kinds of materials there, but it comes back to a comment I made maybe 5-10 minutes ago, which is, it's all pointless anyway. Like, you can argue all the time, well, why bother? But again, you simply miss the point. Why not bother? We have created a society whereby we've got all these brains and all this computing power. Why not try and push the boundaries? Why not try and create things that move people and that excite people? That's what these products should do. They should excite you. They should make you want to tell your mate about, do you know what Ceralume is? Yeah. That's what life should be about, creating stuff that simply moves you.
Probably stop talking to me.
In my humble opinion.
With IWC, the so what is missing. It's okay, yes, IWC, oh, they do this. And what, sell it to me. Not in a hype way or in any way like that. It's just, what is it about this brand? Because you do get like Omega that went into space, Rolex, James Bond, you name it, all this amazing marketing machine.
Yeah.
IWC do incredible watches if you know what you know what you're talking about. Yeah. And that's the so what that's missing, isn't it? That how amazing they are.
They're missing the hook.
The hook, yeah, that's quite an interesting point, really, as the story we tell ourselves. You're right, Omega, the first watch in space. Rolex is just, it's almost like the classic. I've made it.
Aspirational
look at most brands.
Brand, right? That's what it is. Yeah,
exactly. I think what is it? I've heard this quite recently off a good friend. I won't pretend this is my first, original thought, but he said that IWC to me always felt like the if you know then you know brand. It felt like the watch fanatics brand, where you've stopped caring about whether it's cool or whether people say you should have it, but you just simply love it. And then he actually went on to counter himself a little bit in terms of pricing and so on. But I do think he had a kernel of a great thought, which is, to me, IWC feels like a little secret. It feels like a really well-kept secret where this is why I probably keep going back to them, even though I do my best, by the way. I really sometimes sit down and say, buy something different, wear something different. And I get sucked back in again because I find something that's really exciting. So I do think, it's got that bit of no one else really knows, therefore it feels like mine, which I really like.
Yeah, I've seen on your Instagram, like I've seen other female Instagrammers with like Selfridges or designer shopping bags, and you're carrying an IWC shopping bag.
Yeah.
Like, hey?
Yeah, usually with some sort of like, or I'm like painting a wall or sanding something, and I'm like in an IWC, which there's always something.
An IWC somewhere, in an IWC environment. Yeah.
There's for Christmas they gave this little watch box and a book, but the watch box, it just says "for my next IWC" on the side of it, which I burst out laughing when I opened because it just felt so sort of like personal.
Yeah. No, it's cool. It's nice to have that affinity with the brand. I really I think as proper watch people, it really is. Like you say, that secret. It's my thing. This is what I like. And I probably don't want everyone to like it because then it just becomes boring. I like the fact that there's not many of us out there with you out there. I mean, I like certain brands, yeah, but IWC for yourself and other IWC appreciators, it must feel like a little club.
Do you know what it does? It weirdly does, and I mean it when I say I've made wonderful friends, like Jason, who I met last year in January at the Schaffhausen tour. We went to the rugby. I was there, with I know his kids and his wife, and people know about my life, and you sort of just get to know people on quite a personal level. A good friend of mine who runs a marketing and ad firm I now use in my professional life because, we solve problems for each other, and it's actually a really, or sometimes we just go to the pub.
Yeah. It's not all work.
No, absolutely not. But it's a cool thing, and also I should say I'm really big on transparency. Again, it's not a paid thing with IWC, but they look after me. They're amazing, and by look after, I want to be clear here. It's a birthday card. It's do you want to come to Watches and Wonders? They're not paying for anything for me to be there, but they are kind and they're thoughtful, and they really small things like Chris will like things that I write about IWC, or somebody will engage. It costs them nothing to do that. But what that does for me is it really keeps me in their ecosystem, and I can't. There's no other brand I've experienced like that. Because it's not like my spend is. I know some of the biggest spenders who are spending hundreds of thousands a year. I'm not even. I'm a drop in the ocean. I'm probably like the bottom 2 of people in spend, but they are really gracious to me, and I really appreciate that.
No, I think it's the integrity you show as well with your passion for it. It's how you carry yourself, right? When you do something resonates, I'm pretty sure with them as well. And I think with social media, and again, I don't want to increase the size of your head too much, but no, it just professionalism, integrity. I think that really does shine through for myself. I'm sure with Andy as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
But there is one more watch that IWC are famous for, and I know you own one because you just mentioned it earlier on, and that is the Ingenieur. So I understand you're not a big fan of the steel ones, but the titanium one is, I know from first-hand experience, you don't like them that much, but the titanium one is the one to get. Why is that the one to get and not the steel? What is it? It's just a metal, what makes it so unlovable?
Yeah, it's not just the metal. It's not just the metal. It's everything. It's 90% of the watch, probably more. So I bought the steel with the white dial. I think they actually call it a silver dial. Bought that pretty soon after it came out, but getting the titanium was impossible. It took 11 months to get that. I think it was manufacturing it was the real problem. Grade 5 titanium is notoriously difficult. So I don't know if you remember, but it really blew up. Where the titanium specifically blew up at the time. You had the hype machine, which it was really well received. Of course, there was some criticism around pricing and so on, but really, I never saw anything that Nothing scathing
Yeah.
apart from the price. And I'm not just saying that. I think it went quite well. But the titanium particularly went very well. And I remember, people like Waco and George Bamford sort of, really championing it and being very clear at the press day that they put their orders in. And then I just never saw one. So I had my name down for one, and it was quite like, at the time anyway, it was, look, we're going to have to prioritize customers that buy with us and so on and so forth, which was really fair. And then, so I didn't really have strong opinion at the time. I even said, look, when it comes, I will make my mind up. I'll hold it in my hand. I think it'll be too light for me. I don't think I'll like that, because you can tell I wear a lot of big watches, which naturally are quite heavy. Anyway, so we went to Schaffhausen in the January, so watching one of the April. January rolls around, and Jason and I are pestering poor Kerry and Zhao, like, come on, where is it? We're walking around the manufactory, like, looking for them. And to our sadness, still nothing. And it was about a month later, actually, when they arrived. And I got a phone call. I was in the office, and it was like a Tuesday afternoon, and Ludovic said to me, look, if you come today, we've got one for you. And I was like, oh my gosh, how has this happened? He said, I'll tell you the honest truth. There are about 5 people ahead of you, but no one can pick it up today. So that's just, where we're at. As Jason is I think, I'm not joking, I think he has about 30 IWC. So he's really up the pecking order. Anyway, I took the chance. Like I said, that maxed out, I'm maxed out. I'm only joking about that, but it does sort of feel like that sometimes. And went over. I had what was I wearing at the time? I think I was wearing a Royal Oak, actually, which there's a whole side story there that I just don't have a love affair with that at all. I just didn't.
I can't see you as a Royal Oak person, to be
No,
honest, but
it doesn't
I'm
do for me.
surprised.
No, me too. That was a real, and I hold my hands up.
Hype moment
that I bought, because I was like, oh my God, they'll let me spend my money? Are you serious? Wow. Yeah. Anyway, as you can tell, I have some feelings about that. But anyway, I put this titanium on, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Have you felt one? Have you had one in your hands? The titanium ingenieur. Have you?
Oh, me? Are you asking us? I thought this is still part of your story.
Yeah.
I've actually tried Justin's on. It is very light and.
Did you notice how soft, how tactile? It just has a certain feeling to it.
I didn't, because it was someone else's watch. I didn't want to start.
You don't want to stroke it.
You might have got the wrong idea. Fine. I might have been blacklisted from every event.
I just go around stroking people's watches. Clearly.
Maybe I should have tried it.
I don't know. I reckon Justin would have been okay with that, to be honest.
He might have actually put me on the top of the list. You never know.
Yeah, exactly. But when you have it on, it's an incredible feeling, and it's. I think that I don't actually like a full steel watch. I find them quite heavy. I don't want to make it a gendered thing, because I don't think it is, but I set a laptop a lot. It bangs. I just generally don't like bracelets. I don't wear bracelets. And I know the titanium is a bracelet, but it doesn't feel like one. It's really light. It's really silky. And for me, the sort of a grey on grey aesthetic pops. When you see those batons, the hour markers, which are blackened, they're not black polish, but
they're detailed. There's black coating around the sides, and it does. Well, it was the one Justin showed me. The indices were. It stands out. It does. It feels like
the ingenieur. Like, it's not What I like about it is, the steel and the black dial is almost the reissue, right? It's the one. I don't really, whatever. I don't really have any sort of excitement over that naturally. Ingenieur is not my first choice. But when I sort of was hands-on with that titanium, I just love the thing. And actually, a really good friend of mine she's not a watch person at all, literally in the slightest. I was wearing it a few nights ago, and she's obsessed now to the point of where she was like, I was wearing the titanium ingenieur.
Really?
Yeah. So I lent it to her for a few days, and she said she was in the office, and she said that I've never had this. I was at the coffee station just making a coffee, and one of my bosses came over, and he was like, is that an IWC? And apparently they had this whole long conversation. Really? She said at the end, I had to admit to him, like...
And these are non-watch people?
Completely non-watch. Doesn't own a watch. Never cared about them. And she said, like, it just started a conversation. And then this other guy joined in. And then another woman came over and said, I'm looking at buying something for myself. And everyone was trying it on. But to someone else, you're like, wow, how dare you? Like you want to lend your property out. But that is the biggest moment of pride. Like, I was so happy. to the point of now where she wants to go to IWC and maybe like consider for herself something like that. And I asked her why, and she said, I like the size, but I also like that it doesn't feel its size. There's something quite tactile to it. It feels, and this is now my words, like a piece of engineering and a piece of design, which is what watches should be. And Chris Granger himself is an architect, right? And I think that there is almost like a completeness to that watch that the steel doesn't have. It just feels like another steel watch. Whereas the titanium, for me, is perfect. I actually don't have a fault with it.
Yeah, the titanium is amazing. The steel, I do like the steel one, I've got to admit. But,
we all make mistakes, it's fine.
Yeah, we all make mistakes. I didn't buy one, so it was all right. I didn't quite commit to that mistake. But just one thing, talking of Waco and Revolution, last year in 2024, you were named one of the most influential women in the watch world by Revolution magazine. First, how did that make you feel? You must be very proud to have received that, but explain that. Because like I say, you've only been on the scene a very short period of time.
If you know me, like this will make sense. It makes me recoil when people say, I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's just, the secret thing was for a reason. There's this thing around the watch and the luxury world where I think you can be really misinterpreted. If I sort of started speaking to my friends about watches, they would think it's quite material. But I think when you're in it, you realize it's not, or at least it's not for me. It's really not material, and I'm very grateful. And I still look at my life, and I'm not really sure how I've ended up here. But this has not always been the way. Believe me, I remember thinking, who has £500 to possibly spend on, I don't know, a watch? That's crazy. That would be my limit forever. And things change quickly, and I'm grateful for that. But the Revolution things that came out in December, I had not a clue. I don't to this day know who was involved in that process. I had met Way very recently, before that, at some auctions in Geneva in the November. We spoke about the 3755 quite animatedly, which was amazing. Again, one of those moments where I was like, I followed this magazine for however many years. I literally remember when it first came out. So yeah, what does it know? It's a funny thing, really, because it comes back to what are we chasing? And for me, I've never chased recognition for the sake of it. I wouldn't change what I do in order to get these sorts of things. So to be recognized in such a short space of time as somebody who is, the word influential sort of, again, it makes me sort of like, influencer, influential, that sort of, I don't resonate with that word because I'm not in any way trying to influence anyone. It's me just having some sort of outlet for I'm probably riddled with ADHD or something because I can't sit down and not think about something, because I'm always just like, well, what about this cool thing? Have we thought about it? And I just post about it because that's just my thoughts. So it was really cool. It's maybe, in a lot of ways has given me the validation to keep going. So what does it mean to me? Actually, I think it's amazing in the world we live in, where social media is so saturated with. I used to be sort of not nervous to post because there's always someone with a better watch. There's always someone with more money.
Yeah.
There's always somebody who knows a bit more than you. There's always somebody who you sort of look at and go, oh, I don't want to say that because I'll probably be wrong. And I sort of took that leap of faith, and I moved in my own little lane and spoke about the things I feel like I can speak about. And it's nice to see that there's room for that it's not just about, here I am at this really expensive place, or I also don't pretend to be super wealthy. I'm really not. I'm a very normal person doing normal things, and probably just allocate my capital badly, to be honest. So yeah, what does it mean to me? It was awesome, and I am super grateful for it.
Yeah.
And what it means to me is I probably will continue on my ridiculous journey, and hopefully this.
Yeah, it inspired you to keep doing more and more and more now.
Yeah, it inspired. I feel always inspired, but what it did do, you're right, actually. Palm, I actually think you've made a really good point. It gave me that little nudge to say, you're not shouting into the wind. It's quite cool, keep doing it. Someone somewhere decided that what you have to say is interesting. And I've really noticed that certainly in the sort of watch space, everyone has a very different voice. No one is really, unless you start getting into the specific media outlets, and of course you have to report on everything. If you actually look at independent people, they just talk about what they like, and you can very quickly tell when they're not. everyone's a bit of a one of one, which is quite nice, and I'm grateful and happy to continue sort of pushing in that space. So yeah, thank you to Revolution and Waco, whoever it was that said, yeah, okay, stick her on. Maybe they got to number 99. They were like, God damn! Like, where do we? Anyone get anything?
Yeah. Has anyone left? Who's this?
99 is a lot of people, if we're honest. That's a lot of people. So I was probably just the
I'm sure it wasn't that, but no. Okay, no. Congratulations! I just wanted to say that from the Crown of Passion 7 podcast. Congratulations on that.
I know it's super cool. But yeah, because it's I said this right at the start. Even I think sort of joking with you, Paul, about joining. It still feels weird, but it's if you boil it all down, you get to live out every day, and like I said, my main job is not watches at all, but this feels like an extra life. But this is the irony is I probably am a little spy. Really, this is my secret life, my double life.
There's this thing where what you're like in real life, what you're like at home. It's just different personas. But was that because it's Johari window? There's this psychological perception of self, basically, and the watch person is probably different from the person who's at home putting their feet up, watching television. It's just or when no one's around. So you can create a persona in the watch world as well, I guess, given a platform and given enough people who want to listen to you.
That's really interesting that you talk about persona, because that's probably something that I've been quite surprised at and quite keen on, is if you meet me not talking about watches, I'm genuinely the exact same, and I will just go on about something and be super enthusiastic because the sun's shining today, and have you seen that new, I don't know, wall? It's a really nice brick. Honestly, this is just me.
Yeah, let's stick to watches then.
I just think
you don't have an Excel though, right, on walls?
Yeah, I have now. Found my new passion.
Clay content of bricks.
I would not put it past me. It wouldn't be that shocking if I decided tomorrow to be really into walls and bricks. But genuinely, I'm exactly the same in my personal life, because I think I see watches as my personal life. I don't see it as like maybe work would be quite different. I'm probably a bit more subdued. I can't really walk around sort of like, let's do everything, because there's things to achieve.
Yeah.
But
do you find, like you say, watches have always been there? But I feel this, but then I kind of think they've always been there, but now, wow, it means something. It actually is. I'm glad I subscribed to liking watches and loving watches to have got to today, where I can actually do a podcast and you can do your amazing stuff.
Wild,
it is quite pinch yourself.
100%. But I mean, look at what you guys have built, right? I mean, I couldn't even begin to think about the effort that goes into creating these things, and this is because you love it. I'm assuming you're not doing it because you're told to. So I'm actually quite curious, if you don't mind, what made you guys start this?
IWC, I think. No, again, I've always liked watches, but then got more and more into it during the pandemic, like a lot of people, and then found, again, a little community of, and then got involved in it, got involved in YouTube. And then that's when I realized that, okay, I'm quite enjoying this whole talking watches thing. And then Andy and I met through that. And then we decided to do this. And it's the fun. I love doing this. I love talking to people, and I love planning this kind of stuff as well, and what goes into it. It's not just a case of, I've got a watch and I want to talk about it. To me, that doesn't float my boat. It is literally, right, this is going to be like this and this is going to be like that. It's just the whole doing the best you can with what you love doing.
That's awesome.
Sharing the passion, I think, learning about people as well. Like we've touched on that a lot, right? Through the show, it's as much about the people as it is the watches themselves. I'd much rather sit and listen to one of you two talk passionately about your watch than me sit here and talk about mine. And learning the story behind it, right? And what makes that special, or what it is about IWC, what made you fall in love with that brand. So yeah, it's just the passion, the enjoyment, and the community of people. I think what's driven me, at least, and made me want to pursue it even further from when we started it. It's just how wild it's been. Like you mentioned, like just getting to know brands better and building those relationships, and like the opportunities you get more from just able to experience them firsthand and getting these like tours around their factories and learning the history. Like one example is Zenith, right? Which we did a few years ago, which, you know, the attic story, and just getting chills down the spine learning about how the El Primero was saved, you know. So all this kind of stuff, it's just truly special. So yeah, my 2 cents on part of that is certainly that.
For both of us as well, I think I'm glad we're learning this now rather than we knew 20 years ago, and you know, just going through the motions of, you know, cynicism of the way how the watch world has changed, and you know, it's
Being young
literally
puppies
like,
still.
it's learning it, at the right time. When the student is ready, the teacher will come. That's what they say, and I think that's applicable to a lot of people who do what all three of us do.
No, I love that. You said 2 words there, truly special, and I think they're probably my most overused ways of describing stuff. But I do think this is truly special. What a truly special thing to get to do with your life, to experience these brands and the stories and the people. And I do find myself sometimes, and maybe I'm just too much of an optimist, maybe I see the world in a way that is too bright, but life really is whatever you make of it. And I do think the watch world sometimes can forget that this is really cool. And you don't need to have like this myriad of negative perspectives. You know, it's just a watch. It's just a thing. You don't have to love it. Don't have to like it even. But you also don't have to get wound up by it. It's perfectly fine. But you can have a passionate opinion on it that is negative. That is, I love hearing that as much as I do hearing, you know, about why people love stuff, because we all get better through engagement and criticism and well, thoughtful criticism. So the concept of the watch world and the concept of being, because somebody said to me the other day, are you going on like a journalist pass to watch and wonder, something like that? And I just laughed and said, no, I don't really know what pass I'm there on, but for me, it's just, I'm not really sure why or how I'm there. I'm just there. Whereas, I don't know, we lose sight. All of us lose sight in our lives. It's sort of like the car you always wish you had. When you get it, the first few weeks, it's pristine. You're probably polishing it yourself. And then give it 6 months, and you know your McDonald's wrapper's in the door. Well, you've scuffed the tires. You don't care.
You don't care.
The brand
washed
sucks.
it for 3 months.
You know, it's crap anyway. You know, humans have this real myopic view of life where we want and want and want, and then we get, and then we just want the next thing. And I think that's the watch world is probably quite guilty of. The luxury world is guilty of, and I'm really trying to not fall for it myself. I do all the time, and it's quite nice. This is a real, I think, antidote to that. And these sorts of conversations where you're like, oh, this is actually special to get to have these conversations.
Therapy sessions.
Yeah. It's just therapy, really. Stop buying stuff, Emily. It'll be fine. There'll be another Watches and Wonders around the corner. Just chill out. Just stop.
There'll be a new IWC out. There'll be, I don't know.
Come on, predictions, hot predictions. What's coming? And you choose your own brand. What do you think is coming out? Watches and Wonders.
Ooh, shall we just do one each?
Ooh.
A fun one, which I think could happen, maybe won't happen, but I'd like to see Rolex Oyster Perpetuals, the classic OPs, but with stone dials.
Oh, interesting.
One prediction.
Is that a wish list or a prediction?
I think it could happen with a date, just more realistically than the Oyster Perpetuals, but I think it'd be cool to have a range of stone dial OPs, especially with the whole stone dial movement, what we had last year. But then Rolex like to be the trend setter, and this certainly wouldn't be that. Definitely. So it probably won't happen. So it's maybe a bit more of a wish than a real prediction. But date just maybe.
I have no idea. I don't like doing these predictions.
You don't have to play. You don't have to engage.
No, I want to play. It's my game as well. I'll get back to you. Emily, you go.
I'm going to try. My natural sort of thing is to go to IWC here, but I won't. What would I go with? Do you know what I'd love to see? I would love Lange, massive Lange fan, and I'd love to see basically anything in honey gold that's actually buyable, that's not limited. I love the Cabaret. I don't know if you can put the Lange Cabaret. It's the long rectangular number. It's on my chrono. We've all got the chrono notepad, you know, of things that we want.
Yeah.
I'd love to see something like that brought back, but in a honey gold, not limited. I just love that shade, that hue of gold. I think for me, Lange is probably one of the most special watch brands in the world. I think they're truly exceptional and undervalued and under talked about. So I'd love to see that.
It's a good one.
That sounds really cool. Lange is just, well, again, it's another aspirational brand, if you know, in the luxury watch sphere, isn't it? It's just something else. You know what? I want them to bring back. What I want for Watches and Wonders is for Cartier to bring back the Cartier Drive moon phase. I really like
a good one.
Not the Roadster, the Drive.
Yeah.
It's a bit large, and they make it slightly smaller.
Is that the circular
It's thin,
one?
though, right?
Yeah, it's kind of that kind of aquanauty shape.
Yeah.
But that's not why I like it. I've liked it before I knew what an aquanaut was.
It's quite slim.
Yeah,
from memory. It wears large, but it's just slim.
Yeah, it's probably slim, but I've always found it quite big. And I wish they made it a bit smaller. Just made it slightly smaller and stick the moon phase on it. And a Cartier Drive for me, if they did that in gold, that would probably be my Grail dress watch, because I'm one short of a dress watch in my collection, and I need a gold dress, a precious metal dress watch.
I love that. I need a gold dress watch. I need.
Yeah, I
Have
do.
you
I do.
heard yourself, Tom?
Yeah, I know. But I've got too many watches as it is, but I don't know. But I need to collect the set. We believe in. So I wrote an article about how we put puzzles together. Humans love putting puzzles together and sets together and tidying everything into a nice little bundle. And then I think our watch collections have to be in that correct bundle. And then it changes sometimes. You think, oh, no, I need to put this one in now. And now that's totally unbalanced everything. Now I need to change the whole lot. But anyway, going back to the Cartier Drive.
Yeah,
you're a loud one. You don't have to make an excuse.
Yeah, I love that. That's another. It's probably a whole another segue that I could go on for, like, I don't know, an hour. Is this concept of a collection? And also, I've traveled tonight, but it's fine. I'm pushing it because I'm enjoying the conversation. I've run from the train before now. We're all good.
Were you worried you weren't going to enjoy it, and you thought, I got to go early?
I mean, now, yeah, it's like a bad date, you know. You always got to have an out.
Oh yeah, you got the phone call.
Yeah, exactly.
IWC are calling.
In hospital.
Oh, guys, I got to go. The train's here.
Exactly.
Uber's here. My Uber's here.
Anything but. But yeah, the concept of, of a curated collection, or I need a dive watch, a dress watch, or whatever.
Chronograph.
You need to have, the best of each category, or that's quite a common thing, and it's not something I've ever followed. To be really honest, I don't feel that need. But that's probably why my collection is kind of a mess, in the sense that it doesn't really there's no lineage, there's no.
There you go. Sell it all.
Start again.
Out with just one dress watch.
In a lot of ways, I sort of feel that's where I'm at the moment. Is I've not that specifically, but I look at my collection now, and I'm figuring out what the next thing is. So moving largely into independence, because there is something special about engaging in that side of the watch world where you meet the one human, or maybe two, that construct your watch or designed it, or whatever. Look at Simon Brett, who has the 12 artisans and the first 12 that bought his watch before they were ever made. Or you look at Roger Smith, which is, if we want to talk about aspirational, that's
I mean, that's
wild.
When you've got the spreadsheets.
The crazy money, low production value. I'll show you you just want to see my spreadsheet. Listen.
I think I do now. I want to see this spreadsheet. I need to see this. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Everyone will be like, not listening to that
publish it,
episode.
yeah.
No one will. Everyone will delete the link to our
Your
website.
subscriber list will just plummet. The concept of a collection is quite an interesting one, and what it is to have a complete collection. I don't think it's real, because once you think you're there, you'll want something else.
There's always
you
one
just
more.
Fall and start again. Yeah.
Yeah,
like Sartori Billard as well. They personalised their watches. Independence is a whole different. It's a whole different ball game. It's going to be like a 5-hour show, I think, at this rate. But Emily, let's do a part 2, and then we can talk about collecting. We can talk about independent watches. We can talk about anything.
I love
but
that.
I think we're going to have to cut it short now.
That means I'm in. That means you've not given the out either. You could have been like, this part 1, one of one, special.
I switched my phone off. I switched it off because I thought, okay, this is all right. It's not too bad. Let's see how this goes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay, well, thanks for joining us, Emily. We have unfortunately come to the end of the show. Andy, you want to lead us out?
Gosh, the show notes are going to be busy this time, so please go to the website after I found all the
even
pictures.
Referenced it.
Yeah, we've not even referenced the
spreadsheets.
website. Yeah, go to the website where you can find lots of spreadsheets over on www.chronopassion7, as in the number 7.com. And I'll keep it short and sweet. It's hasta luego and adios from Barcelona until the next one.
And as Andy says, farewell from Barcelona in Spain. Emily, would you like to say goodbye to the listeners?
Goodbye. And if you made it this far, thank you very much.
Excellent. And from London, it is Toodle Pip and laters. And we'll see you, and you'll hear us in the next one.